Top 10
Bethesda
Oblivion.
game.
Most insane mods
It's in the
ever.
greatest mods
These
of all
mods will grow
time.
your
Check out
hair
these
back.
naked mods.
Oblivion
Mod
has a
that
million
edge your
weapons.
mom. 69 of the best
Best
mods.
of the
Oblivion
train
mods
is in the game.
2024.
Click my video or die.
8K, bitch.
Stop. This is getting insane. Are you guys really still falling for this in the thumbnails? Me and Paris wanted to do a video on Oblivion mods and how far they've come and what's really stood the test of time. Not the flashy mods that amplify lens flares like you're in the next installment of a J.J. Abrams movie. Or the videos that tell you how to modernize Oblivion with these specific mods. And then they show you clips walking around in what looks like goddamn Unreal Engine 5 Oblivion and it somehow works. But what they don't show you is the cuts and edits they make in between the crashing. I haven't played Oblivion in years. I'm no master modder. I'm just a guy who invited another guy to come check out some of the most downloaded Oblivion mods and see what's up. But don't get me wrong, things have gotten pretty crazy.
Hi, I'm the other guy. We downloaded roughly 10 different mods to check out. We excluded any bug fixing mods, even though those might be some of the most important because that shit is absolutely boring. We have a good mixture here though. A couple graphic mods, some mods that change the environment, and some that change gameplay entirely. Variety was a goal here, but also to stay on our main goal of downloading the most popular mods as well, and to see what regular people like and download on the daily.
Better cities. This mod has been downloaded over 2 million times since its release, which is pretty crazy. That's more downloads than some of the AAA games releasing these days, and it's for a good reason. It overhauls pretty much every existing city in the game with new buildings, NPCs, and even some quests. These guys went all out, and I really mean that. Some of this stuff is going to blow your mind if you've been playing Oblivion for years like myself. I actually couldn't believe some of the stuff that they put into this mod. When you first download the mod, you'll notice that it's modular. Basically, you can choose which cities get the facelift, or maybe you prefer the original, or you decide you need the performance. Regardless, it's nice to have options, and that's what we get here. Enough about the back end stuff. You want to see what the mod looks like. Well, there's an absolute shit ton of stuff to cover in this mod, and we don't have that kind of time. But for the most parts, I'll show you the highlights, which is still like 20 minutes of content. Ridiculous. I wanted to start with the Imperial City because I heard that it was pretty intense with this mod, and boy, they were not wrong. Here we have the Arboretum, and don't assume I knew this word before this video, because I didn't. They added so much foliage and greenery that really makes this thing come to life. More statues and more buildings. It almost has like a park feel to it. This was one of my favorite things they added in here. They had live animals like this deer that would just roam around the area amongst the people. Here are some of those custom buildings that were added called the Government Ministry Office. We'll get back to those in a little bit. They also added this pond with some cool butterflies next to a hotel. I decided I'd stroll through just to check out the area to show you guys. The pond leads up to this building called the Arboretum Hotel. I believe this is a custom building. It's been a while since I've played, but back in the day it was like an obsession for me, so I should remember. Inside we have some cool statues and shrubbery decorations. I have no idea what you would call them. They almost look like garden plots or something. What's crazy about this is how handcrafted it is. It might not seem crazy to you guys yet, but when you see the massive amount of custom buildings they have, it really starts to blow your mind. I wanted to talk with the clerk and see if she had original voice acting or what they went with.
Welcome to the Arboretum Hotel. Our location in this wonderful nature reserve here in the Imperial City makes us one of the most sought-after lodging places in Cyrodiil.
I think this might be original VA. I wasn't too sure because it sounds similar to other Oblivion NPCs, but what she's saying is definitely original writing. Anyways, I moved on and I found some of the random NPCs that are placed in these locations. I love this. It adds so much more race variety and it actually started to feel like a massive city smack dab in the middle of a million different cultures. They only say one word, but it's more about the immersion here. I wanted to check out the government building we talked about before, so I went in. More custom assets and furniture in a nicely made area. Nothing too crazy here, other than the adoring fan working over there. The lady at the counter didn't have any dialogue, so I thought it was time to move to a different district. Welcome to the Market District, and oh boy, do I have a lot to tell you about this one. For one, the inclusion of the upper floor, or whatever you want to call it, is awesome. It makes the Market District feel huge and way more alive. Tons of NPCs are roaming around, shopping, and even getting haircuts. This is what a capital city should feel like. They also added things like stones and barrels and other craftsman supplies scattered around, which I thought was a nice touch to the world. And then we got shops on top of shops on top of shops. Literally. They've added so many, and there is no possible way I could explore them all for this video. We would need a whole separate video. But I did want to check out a few, and this eventually led me to a crazy rabbit hole. The first one is called Syrian's Grocery Shop. It's just a cool little grocery store with vegetables and pumpkins. But I loved the simplicity of it. There were literally shops everywhere. Juno's Guest House. And then we have Oriel's Books. Scribe Supplies. All the regular shops are here as well, and they added these cool little spots that look like food courts or other decorations. I then decided to head upstairs to see what was going on in this new area. Here we had the Bobbed Maiden, which I assumed was a haircutting place, but I didn't go in. This little guy freaked me out, so I had to move on. So instead, I headed into the Blue Sands Housewares. This one was weird and it had some new decoration assets. I had to see what she was selling.
Welcome to Blue Sands, store of exotic silks, soaps, and housewares of precious metals. How can I assist you today? I am the only supplier of Elsewerian glass urns and dishware in all of Cyrodiil, each piece shipped in special order from the desert sands of my homeland.
She goes on to tell me about all the different wares she has, and it's pretty nifty for those looking to spice up their player home. All types of different design plates and vases or whatever else. All unique to this mod, which was crazy. Check out this little palm decoration thing. It's not much, but that's honest work. I kept looking around the veranda. Is that what it's called? I saw a little shop called Fire and Ice, and I took a look inside. It was full of what you would expect. Staffs and other wizard bits and bobs. Across the way was a door that didn't have a sign above it, so I wanted to take a peek. This one was really cool to me. It's just a lodging for traders coming through, but the fact that these guys who made this mod thought about this small of a detail was really insane to me. It was super immersive, and nothing about this place looked half-assed. This sign was pretty cool. It had what I would assume was a custom animation floating around it. Made it feel a lot more magical. The interior wasn't as crazy, but the lady could actually take your gear and enchant it for you. I couldn't remember if this was something that could be done in the vanilla game, so let me know. Then there was this. My initial thought of this place was not good. So of course I had to go in, and it was literally just a toy shop.
Welcome to the Toy Stop. We have a large selection of toys, both soft and fluffy, or wooden and sturdy for the more rowdy customer. You could buy something as a gift for a young one at home, or perhaps you're young at heart and the gift is for you.
I didn't need a toy, so I went fishing, or to the fish store. This one had a unique little aquarium that I enjoyed. It also had some massive fish on the counters getting prepared to be cooked. Now let's get back to that rabbit hole I was talking about. On the way through the market, I saw this little sign. I thought, I wonder what that could be. Well, nothing could prepare me for this. Once you go in, it almost reminded me of like an entrance to a mall or something. Then you head downstairs, and oh my god, look at this. A massive underground thing. I wish I had recorded my live reaction because I couldn't actually believe this existed. I mean, it's huge. It reminded me of a train station or something. This sign was my first taste of the custom quests built into this mod. At least I assume so. I never actually got to it because I never followed the lead. I got lost. Literally lost here. And then I found this weird priest guy.
Blessed. Blessed are you who have come to me for guidance in these dark times. For you and you alone have had the courage to Rise, rise up, my child, for today you have been saved from the terrible fate.
He goes on and on about God knows what. So I peaced out on him. And he didn't like that.
Leave. Leave if you must. But if you leave this day.
There were also other traders down here, like tons of them everywhere. None of them had custom dialogue lines, as you can see, so I just continued on through the tunnels, never knowing quite where I'd end up. I then came across a weird building placed in the middle of the tunnel. The sign here says Public Bathing House, so of course we have to check this one out. On the door was a flyer talking about the aqueducts for the water being broken or something like that, and then it gave me a quest to talk to a man to help to fix them. The door was locked, so I assume once you do that quest it opens up, but I just used some console commands to check it out. It was really cool. It almost looks like something from Morrowind. There's no people or NPCs in here, but I'm guessing they'll show up after the quest, but I don't know. I thought, oh, this must be the end of it. Then I went past the corner and further into the tunnel. Look at that. Just look how far back this thing goes. I was actually starting to feel almost lost in here. It felt like I was in an actual city and I had no idea exactly where in that city I was. Upstairs, I found out that people lived down here. They had little houses. So I kept looking and then I found an abandoned residence that I wanted to check out. It was cool. The lighting made it feel like it was underground and mysterious or something. I was surprised that I hadn't run into any beggars living in here. It went even further downstairs and I found a locked door. Inside was a really sad scene. A dead rat mom and her two babies. I'm pretty sure there were never any rat babies in Oblivion, so this feels like an odd scene to me. Maybe it's an Easter egg or something, but it's super random. The rest of the place was about the same, so I just looked for an exit. This one led up into some weird in-between area between the city and the underground, and there was a shop here that I noticed had the same name as that poster earlier suggested. Went inside and there were 3 orcs here, and I'll let them do the talking.
Welcome, friend, to the Emporium of Waterfront Traders. We're an honest band of honest merchants, trying to earn an honest living, selling only the finest goods at honest prices. Did I happen to mention we're honest? Good, because that's us, honest to the very bone. We've got plenty of fine wares for sale, as long as you're not interested in asking where it comes from.
This must be your lucky day. I bet you do a bit of alchemy, am I right? Well, I've got an amazing range of rare and expensive ingredients. Huh, what did I tell you? You won't find this selection anywhere else, especially not up in the city. Who cares where I got them? It's none of your damn business where or how I got them. You want them or not?
I don't know if these ingredients are actually rare or not, but I would assume so. You'll have to let me know. Also, they definitely sounded like the original VAs from Oblivion. This isn't AI, is it? I'm gonna have to look this up after. Or did they just get the original VAs to come back? That would be cool. There was one last shop that I noticed that I definitely had to go in. The Gold Horse Courier. This one was tied to a multitude of quests as well, as you can see with the delivery board. I didn't try any, but it was awesome to see this.
What do you want? You want to be a courier, do you? I could definitely use another courier. Well then, take this handbook on the rules and regulations. You are to read it carefully, and look to it for any questions you may have. I don't know how dependable you are, so I'm going to start you off small. Go to the board here or in the other cities and do some local deliveries. You do enough of them, and I'll let you start doing intercity work. Good luck, and don't disappoint me.
Who knows how many hours this could add to your game, and it's just down here in this little corner in nowhere. Then I ran into a beggar down here.
Please, kind sir, could Andrea have a few coins? This one was so hungry this morning, he was forced to lick moss off the walls. Oh, Nadrea understands. It is okay. He will live. For a few more days, at least.
That does it for the market district and this crazy underground world. It actually blew me away. I can't believe how much I haven't seen and how much I actually had. The work had to be tremendous. Here we have the Elven Gardens. Don't worry, I decided to limit the exploring for most of the next parts in this mod. Oh, and if you notice some weird yellow glowing things, I'm pretty sure they're just objects that didn't load into my mod or something. So ignore that. The gardens were really interesting because they added these little garden atriums on tops of the buildings, and you could actually explore them. The Elven Gardens look like an actual garden at this point. There was also a library, but I didn't go in. So if you're curious and you're exploring the mod yourself, go for it. Other than that, it's just some nice environments. I'm sure there's a lot more here and in other locations that I talk about, so just keep that in mind. Now we have the Temple District. I'm curious as to what happens here at the end of the game and if they figured out a way to include all their new assets into the battle. They also added another layer to the buildings here, and they made a bunch more unique buildings that they included into the district. There's also this location, and I didn't go in that either, so consider it a little teaser for you guys that want to check it out. Let's talk about the arena area. This one had some major changes to its landscape. I mean, look at it. I'm pretty sure it's like 3 times bigger with 2 new buildings included into the area. It reminds me of like some sort of manor or a capitol building. I think the arena is also a little bigger, but I couldn't really tell. The barracks inside stayed mostly the same, but there was some little decorations they included. They also have a little back area with more houses and some stone sculptures and stuff. If I stop talking, just know that I'm letting you take it all in. And also, I didn't want to write more for the script. As you can see, we've made it to the Palace District with the mighty and famous White Gold Tower, the big spire that you see in the middle of the city. The changes here I noticed weren't game altering, but my favorite part is what they actually did with the tower. They made it larger and more detailed. This thing should be insane based on the lore, so I really enjoyed this new look. They also added some housing on the walls, and they fixed up the cemetery a bit so that they were better located in spots that actually made sense. Basically, they just made the surrounding areas around the houses look more civilian friendly. I also wanted to show you the scale of the tower now, and just how big it feels when you're in first person mode. Incredible. Before we move on from the Imperial City, which I'm sure you're sick of at this point, I wanted to show you an area that is completely new to the mod and it isn't in the base game. It's called the Diplomatic District. It's super lore friendly, and I believe it's where diplomats from other provinces stay. You don't have to include this one into your game if you don't want to, and you can still have the mod. At the back of the area, I found even more public bathing areas, and I wanted to see if people were actually in these ones. And ta-da! Here they are. Weirdly in swimming suits as well, which felt kind of out of place, but whatever. There was also this weird creeper guy hanging about. You'll find some cool decorations here, and then upstairs really surprised me. A diving board. Of course we had to test her out. I then wanted to take a look at the hotel that was in the middle of the district, which was like the main focal point of the whole area. It was kind of strange inside. It felt a little more empty than the usual places. But I did think the stairs were interesting and they felt unique to me in the game. Then they of course had the lodging upstairs, which also felt a bit odd, because the rooms were almost like cubicles with no roofs. Last but not least, we have the waterfront district, and this one also got a major overhaul, as you can see. They expanded on all the housing outside of the wall, adding sheep and tents and a whole lot more vendors. Here's a cool little rat getting cooked up. The actual waterfront got a whole host of things with new ships and harbor equipment. It feels a lot more lively and how a dock should actually be. It's a lot better than the generic 2 boats and basically no one moving around the area besides some guards. And it looks really nice. In the outskirts, we have more vendors like I said before. This guy's selling out of his tent, which is cool. I explored a little bit of the area and chose some locations that I thought sounded more interesting. But it's crazy to see just how many new buildings and locations are out here on the waterfront alone. You'll find more shady characters, and I found this tavern called the Black Rook. It's pretty dark inside, and it looks exactly like you would expect in an area like this. I kept moving further down, and I'll let you just enjoy how much more detailed the area is now. The waterfront butcher sounds scary, so I had to see if it was. Nah, it's just an actual guy selling some meat. But what kind of meat? Who's to say, really? Then I stumbled across another creepy area, which was this graveyard with this mist in front of the sketchy church. I thought the church would for sure be empty, but there's still people in here worshiping the divines. I went back to the waterfront and I found the coolest shop that I've seen thus far, the Learned Warlock. This place was sick with all types of magic-y and wizardy stuff. Way better than the ones I found back in the market district. The dude and his hat were even interesting, and all these cool little potions. But then I decided to talk to the guy, and that was a mistake.
What? What are you looking at? You're looking at my hat, aren't you? You think it's stupid, don't you? You don't think that. You're lying. I know it. Don't lie to me. I don't believe you, but I'll let you off this once. Don't let me see you staring at my hat again, or I'll turn you into a hawker.
Finally out of the Imperial City, but I have to give props for just the small amount I saw. It was actually incredible, and it made me want to jump back into another playthrough. I want to showcase a few of the cities because, yes, they even expanded on every major city, which is insane, except for Kvatch. This is Coral, and they added whole new neighborhoods like you can see in front of the castle. The streets are so much more detailed with all these nice trees and grass decorations. I love the look of Coral. The temple is way different compared to the basic version that exists in every other city, and I appreciate the effort for that. It makes each temple feel more unique to the city that it exists in. Even the castle, as you can see here, has changed so much. I like how the road now winds up to it with all these flags and decorations. The castle feels more important and far larger. All the houses in this scene are all new additions to the city. I couldn't leave out Skingrad. This one is one of my personal favorites, and they did an insane job here. This is all new, I believe. I love the statue and the vineyard sign. This temple also got a major upgrade, and look at how massive it is now. This is a temple worthy of Skingrad. Anvil is next, and sorry it was raining. I swear I couldn't get the damn thing to quit most of the time. I would actually say that Anvil may have the least amount of changes, so far as the inner city goes. It still is definitely a little different, but nothing mind-blowing. It's the waterfront that blew me away. They added so many more ships and houses and all types of crazy stuff out here. Look at the lighthouse island. It has a whole ass home underneath it and castle walls. Can't see them, but there's also tons of added NPCs that really livened up the place, and it makes sense because this should be one of, if not the biggest harbors in all of Tamriel. This is the last location for this mod, and I saved it for last because of how different and how cool they made it. They changed Breville to be more lore accurate with its dark and gritty atmosphere. It has become even more maze-like with almost factory-like smoke and aura. They added more clutter and trash on the ground, and it makes Breville feel more unique than any of the other cities in the game. Personally, I love the vibe, and I love that they changed the whole atmosphere. It makes this place actually feel more unique. Better Cities is exactly that, but even better than you imagine. It's no wonder why this mod is one of the most downloaded of all time. The sheer amount that I have left to explore is crazy, and it makes me want to give the game a full playthrough. Hopefully we see this mod get recreated for the Oblivion remaster. I know, it's just rumored and not an announced thing yet, but I'm putting it out into the universe. Maybe you're already watching this in the future and it's already out. If so, hello from the past.
With almost 3 million downloads since its original upload in 2013, the Oblivion character overhaul is one of the most utilized mods in the Elder Scrolls community today. This is an all-in-one revamp of Oblivion character heads, new head shapes, skin textures, normal maps, eye textures, and some new hairstyles covering all races in the game, including Dramora's and Shivering Isles races, all built to a single unified art direction that adheres to the styles of Skyrim and the Elder Scrolls Online. Affects both players and NPCs. Yes, I just read that directly from the mod itself, but it sums it up nicely. In order to truly grasp how effective this mod is, I figured we'd start our journey in Anvil and show you familiar faces as they exist in the game today. By showing you both befores and afters, I think this will help paint a justified picture on just how dated character models look in the game. They definitely don't look as great as I remember them looking when this game released, because for some odd reason, I always pictured them in 2K, as well as the environment for that matter, but I think that's primarily because the jump to HD back in the day was significant. Not only is Anvil one of my favorite locations in Elder Scrolls, it's rich in diverse characters, so I figured what better place to start than one that is heavy on the nostalgia. Upon arrival, we're greeted by an Anvil guard. Now, without the overhaul, he looks, well, unwell. The teeth are in 640p, but the eyes aren't nearly as bad and have a gloss to them that make them look updated compared to the rest of the body. Also, side note, he hates a bloke named Velwyn, in case you were wondering.
That layabout? Well, you can find him wasting time.
Our next comparison is going to be a wood elf named Cainlorn. Ironically, I didn't realize you can see NPC names in the right-hand corner, and I miraculously guessed his name correctly, to which he took great pleasure in, denoted by his unwavering eyes and extremely full cheeks. Honestly, his character design is unfortunately lacking in my opinion, but this is why the mods were created, to do NPCs like Cainlorn right. Mirabelle is similar to the guard, unchanging eyes, bad jaw structure, except she, however, has a thing for semen.
Sorry, I reserve my beds for seamen.
Now that we have our control group established, let's get this mod installed. Apparently, I installed it in the incorrect order because I didn't download Blockhead, which is carefully notated by the gigantic words "install Blockhead" on my character's face, and on every NPC I come into contact with. Is that you, Cainlorn? After reinstalling it and then reopening my game on Steam, the overhaul finally worked. I immediately loaded back up and went to visit our friend Cainlorn, who got ripped. At least his face was giga-chatted. He also has more facial expressions as our man is giving us the blue steel smolder. A gal in the back took interest in our conversation with Cainlorn, so we paid her a visit, and she too looked more immersive than our semen-loving Mirabelle. There were faint smoker wrinkles in her cheeks, more life to her eyes, and the interaction was more fulfilling than with the prior NPC human characters. The skin textures on my own characters were also heightened. The pubes on my character's face were notable, his face shape also had a greater sharpness to it. Imus the Dole, I think that's how you say his name, notably had a more defined skin texture and his expressions were easily readable. Angillion, not sure how you say that, the elf had a sour expression on his face and light green eyes that gave his face an entirely different feel. Arvena's red eyes also popped, and her lines from smiling over the years really stood out. In my opinion, the most drastic changes occurred with the NPCs that least resembled humans, which was both good and bad. For instance, the Khajiit warrior walking through town had a wild transformation. Mason put it best when he said he looked like the lion from The Wizard of Oz. The tufts of hair near the ears did not do him any justice, and although he was hairier, his skin resembled an eerie face mask. The Aragonians, however, looked way better and had more lizard-esque skin with cool emerald eyes lit that made their characters look like walking dragons. Their overhaul was probably my favorite thus far, but it was easily seconded by the orcs who had a better skin complexion than their original Shrek-colored skin in the game. The orcs were more relatable with the overhaul, and it's probably due to them having more easily identifiable human features. All in all, the character overhaul is worth installing if you haven't already. The skin textures and changes in head shapes were easily noticeable, so it wasn't as subtle as one would think when downloading most mods. This mod gave Oblivion a breath of life in my opinion, and made certain characters such as Cainlorn feel like entirely new interactions. Definitely worth a look if you're wanting to jump back into Oblivion and not have it feel too aged.
Natural environments. This mod has a whopping 1.3 million download count. And it's because the mod doesn't just change some trees and some bushes. I mean, it does do that, but it also does so much more. It changes weather. adding a lot more types of conditions like snow and
Overcast.
hell yeah. Of course, it also changes vegetation, altering the looks of trees and shrubs in the game. And we can't forget
Rainbows.
this mod goes hard, but also has a lot more to offer. Let's take a journey through some of this stuff. Obviously, I didn't know exactly where the vegetation would be altered before downloading the mod, so I took some vanilla shots, and hopefully I can compare it with the mod shots. I wrote this before the case, so I believe in me. We got the shots. They're not exactly one for one, but pretty damn close. As you can see, the mod does an insane job of adding in way more vegetation to the landscape. You'll also notice the lighting changing quite a bit, and I believe that's because the mod has seasons. Right now I'm in summer, so the lighting kind of reflects that. There's also a bunch of weather changes. The number of possible weather variations increased from 7 to 44, including 31 unique weather types. The original 7 categories, clear, cloudy, fog, overcast, rain, snow, and thunderstorm, have been completely redesigned and now include 7 clear, 6 cloudy, 3 fog, 4 overcast, 4 rain, 4 snow, and 3 thunderstorm types. Additionally, 13 variations mimic the new clear and cloudy formations, but they feature paler lighting, making them better suited for colder regions or winter settings. It's hard to tell what changed with the snow at first glance, but when you look close, you'll notice the particles seem to move more randomly, instead of just straight down, and it has a lighter feel to it. The rain was almost exactly the same way. You'll see in vanilla, it's coming down in almost straight lines, where the mod version is differed with singular droplets. It's pretty amazing. Also, the thunderstorm sounds incredible. Listen to this. The mod author also created more atmospheric sounds with birds and insects, and they also included more of these animals into the game. Listen to these locations. My personal favorite was the Leowin swamp area, where I think you can hear loons. I believe that's what they are. This is the Gold Coast, and listen to these insects at night. It is insane. It feels so immersive to just walk around the game. Also, you notice that the night sky is different. The stars also got an upgrade, and the moons. I mean, the detail on the moon is incredible. I always love skybox upgrades. It really improves the game without minimal complex mods. Here's some seagulls on the Gold Coast as well. The last part of the mod might be a little controversial in my opinion, but the author changed the water to add transparency to opaque surfaces. Some will really like this, while others not so much. I didn't mind it, but I also think there are better water mod options. All in all, Natural Environments does some heavy lifting for being a singular mod, and it takes immersion and enjoyment factor up by 10-fold. Damn good stuff. Also, I couldn't find the rainbow. Damn it.
Prior to making this video, I hadn't heard of Deadly Reflex, which if you're a modder watching this, you'd shame me since this mod has over 1 million downloads to date, making it one of Oblivion's most downloaded mods. With that said, I didn't know what to expect with this mod. I read the brief synopsis on the Nexus Mods website and it basically said that combat moves were enhanced. So as with the prior mod we went through, I thought it to be wise that we'd walk through Anvil and start a riot and look at the movements of the altercations between my character and the NPCs in town. To be honest, if you've played Oblivion, then you'll recall how fairly one-dimensional character combat can be when you have a mace in hand or no weapon at all. But it's always good to give us a refresher. So here you can see me slashing at a city guard with the weakest slash ever. Aside from my blocks here and there, you'll notice that both the guards and my character were trained by the same swordmaster in the art of slashing left to right, with a few heavy swings in between. Again, not the most in-depth combat system, but acceptable when this game was released. I then went into the guild and got absolutely obliterated by a horde of poorly trained swordsmen. With the Deadly Reflex enabled, which is super easy considering you don't have to have any other mod downloaded, I was able to load back up the game and get back to it. We love an easy mod. Immediately, I threw my hands up and we had this very Muay Thai stance, proving that the mod already was causing an improvement in even the most basic of stances. I decided to hit the nearest old bird and she was doing roundhouses and even kung fu stances at the end of her hits. The guard didn't even need to come to her aid since she was clearly trained by a master. Nevertheless, he did, and he too had upgrades in his combat system. You'll notice that instead of the mundane left to right swings, he would almost wind up and stab into you like you see in shows such as the Game of Thrones. And at one point, he even twirled around his sword, which was absolutely insane. I decided to wield the dagger, and I noticed that the swings had also improved where my character would slash upward, making for a more brutal attack. But all good things must come to an end, so I decided to go out with a bang and mosey on back to the guild to where we could get a third-person look at how the combat system evolved. And yes, it indeed evolved. All in all, this was a fantastic mod. With no prerequisites needed for the mod, this was fun to easily install and see the action unfold. I never really paid too much mind to how weak the combat system actually was, and that's probably because I'm always too distracted by the incredible soundtrack and environment of walking through Cyrodiil. But when you see an improvement with a mod like this, it does make you realize how ass the former combat system is. I would recommend giving this mod a try. It's easy, it's fun, and that's exactly what a mod should bring to the table.
Eye candy body with over 3 million download. Oh, sorry. Right. No gooners allowed. Fine. Alternate start. Fuck. Alternative start has become a staple in the mod community. Tired of going through the prison every time you restart a character about a third of the way through your playthrough? Wait, this is the wrong game. Yeah, this one. Well, now you don't have to. You begin the game in a cabin aboard a ship, where you've just completed your immigration forms. Upon arrival at your chosen port, you're presented with various options that determine your starting gold and items. You can choose to play as a struggling noble, a wealthy merchant, or another character type, allowing for either an easier or more challenging experience. With version 1.1, the range of choices is so vast that creating identical characters is nearly impossible. At least that's what the mod author says. Here we are in the boat. First thing you do is create your character. Nothing new here really. Then you're in the cabin. I had a little look around and then I headed over to the immigration forms. I forgot the default use button is the spacebar for some reason and E is jump. Here you have several options. You need to pick your birth sign, of course. Mine is Pisces. God damn it. Then you need to pick your specialization. It's all nice and tidy and efficient to quickly get you into the game, which is the entire reason you downloaded this mod. Well, and also for RP purposes. The last segment is the important part. This is your social status, and this is where you choose your beginning and who you want your character to be. You could be a manual laborer, who seemingly has many convictions with his hammer, and he feels very bad about those. Because he felt so bad about the things he did with his hammer, he decided to pick up the pickaxe instead. But he never got the hang of it. It didn't feel like his hammer, so he never made money. He's now a beggar in Leowen. Until one day, he might pick up the hammer once again. Oh, and you also get to pick diseases for your characters to have right off the bat. Speaking of bats, porphyric hemophilia gives you the option to be a vampire, if that's what you're into. I'll show you a few more. We also have a warrior. You get these 3 options, and I decided my character would be an Imperial Legion veteran. He was probably a general or something, so now he's rich. And of course, he would retire in his beloved Imperial City. I'll show you one more. Let's take a look at the priest. This one has a unique question and asks us if we're affiliated with the 9 Divines and their temples. Of course we are. Dabella. We do okay gold-wise. And we live in Anvil. No diseases, of course. We're a priest. Unless you count the downstairs. Never mind. Okay, once you fill out your forms, there's only one thing left to do. Hit the hay. You'll then wake up in your chosen destination for your character's background. Go through the ridiculous amount of DLC messages, and you're on your way. I took a look at my inventory, and it looks like we got some traveler clothes and a dagger. Not the craziest stuff, but we also might have some items in the city that'll be ours. We also did receive a cool spell to start us off, since we're a priest. But unfortunately, I can't use it because my birth sign was Pisces. Damn. Then, just go find your house or whatever and begin your journey. Mine started by running into Pinhead Larry. Cool.
1.5 million downloads later, and we have ourselves the Midas spells or Midas Magic spells of Aurum. And I probably said that wrong, but I hope I said it right. Which, to Mason's point, This mod has more downloads than some AAA games. And it makes sense considering the fact you get a shit ton of spells added to your wizardry arsenal. In fact, there's over 300 new ones. In ways, it's overwhelming since you begin to question where you should start. To help answer that question, I started looking at the Nexus mods page, and also got overwhelmed. But it did help me hone in on a few ideas. Yeah, I'm looking at you, Nuclear Blast. As soon as I jumped into the game, I realized I was playing on my PC and had to learn the game all over again, since I prefer the controller. So excuse my Muppet for Hands playing style this go around, but fortunately for us, we're in the quaint town of Bruma, and the aesthetics of this place almost make up for my poor computer skills. Alrighty, at this point I've briefly scrolled through 20 different spells, many of which look loosely similar. Should we start with the Finger of the Mountain? Or perhaps the Finger of the Mountain? Or maybe the 3rd, 4th, or 5th Finger of the Mountain? As you can see, there's an abundance of fingering the mountains, which is essentially a shock spell. You'll also see there are several entropic bolts, and I'm a simple guy looking for simpler spells, so I scrolled past them and chose something titled Cheater's Nip. I was a hair let down because I realized it didn't give me enough pizzazz for this walkthrough of the mod, so I went with the next option called the Cobra's Dance, which paralyzes your target for 5 seconds, and this led to the enjoyment I was finally looking for. Honestly, I could have paralyzed the city's guards for another 3 minutes before my ADD set in, but I won't bother you with such trivialities. There's also a plethora of conjuring spells, which is also fun to see. I remember playing Oblivion when it first came out, and my first playthrough I heavily relied on different summoning spells. So it's great to see so many options to choose from, like Dark Seducers, a Golden Saint, or simply a bear. Also, if you attack the bear, it will bite back. And that goes for summoning any object. It's a curse and a blessing. I am only but a simple man, so I had to see what the Dark Seducer was going to give us. I mean, there's quite a few entities this could give us, but it ended up giving me something I wasn't expecting nor wanting. Alright, the Dark Seducer was a no-go, but I would have loved to see that work out. Better luck next time. My game did crash at this point, so I restarted it, but let it be known this is the only time my game crashed during this walkthrough, so I won't knock the mod too hard on this one. At this point, I started having fun trying to cause a scene with spells like the Oppressing Grasp, which wasn't showy, but it did get the streets talking. I then used the Midas Vortex Burst, which was dope. This spell clearly sends your opponents into the air, and yes, I did say opponents. There's a cool radius effect to this one, which is fun to use when you're surrounded by enemies, or in this case, city guards. The Midas Vortex Volcanoes was cool, basically an instant kill, which is also fun, but a little too overpowered for my liking. The Midas Tsunami hit spell, much like the Midas Vortex Volcano, will also kill all your enemies a little too soon and is essentially the Volcano spell under a different guise. Here, I was also down the rabbit hole of Midas spells, so I gave the Sunblast a go, which is exactly what you'd expect. Enemies are insta-killed by a solar flare and sprung into the air as they have their last breath. It's fairly ironic using this plethora of spells because you're able to kill an entire city and the music shifts from suspenseful to the tranquility of lifelessness as soon as you're done solar flaring everything in sight. This actually happened several times throughout my gameplay and it was pretty funny. Ugh, I'm shit at picklocking. The Midas Slime Fiend was also disappointing. He's slow as tar. No pun intended. He also will turn his back on you the first chance he gets in front of an orc. But with every closed door, a new door presents itself. Ergo, the Midas Bound Lightsaber. Definitely my favorite spell thus far. It looks cool and has a cool flame effect after each hit. If you want to get really fancy, you can also draft up your own Oblivion portal and take on hell itself. With your lightsaber, of course. The Midas Missile Storm will shoot a barrage of missiles. I don't use the word barrage lightly, these things just shoot forever and wreck anyone in sight. Again, cool, but too OP. I actually felt like Voldemort, where I had too much power for my own good. This was particularly noticeable when I decided to go to jail and the spell just kept on going and going. It was pure chaos. Speaking of Voldemort, you can also cast Snape's Stag. Dope. Oh, and if you've ever dreamt of casting a Barbarian Horde, some modder made that dream come true too. If the Horde doesn't tickle your fancy, would a magic carpet ride? I think so. However, players be warned, it's kind of a bitch to control, but nevertheless a pleasant surprise to see on the list of possibilities. Back to the disappointment, the Holy Sprite and Jelly Blinky were letdowns, but considering I don't know what the fuck a Jelly Blinky even is, it's a write-off. I'm fine always wondering what if on this one. How about a reenactment of Oppenheimer? Your wish is the modder's command. After a few minutes of the summon spell disappointments, this gave me a pep in my step. It was also followed up by an insane Pebble Blast spell. This spell is weirdly charming because it shoots this shit N64-esque pebble at NPCs, causing them to go down immediately. It's right up there with the lightsaber for me. All in all, there are tons of cool spells this mod layers into the game. You also don't need any prerequisites for this mod aside from a small amount of patience as you scroll down the endless types of spells it has to offer. I could do a 3-hour video on this mod alone, and perhaps one day I will, but I'll let you try it out yourself first if you haven't already. My conclusion is that this mod is definitely worth it if you've already played the game, which you probably have since you're watching this mod video and are down the rabbit hole of mods. The upfront cons are that it can easily make the game less fun by being too much of a hack since spells can be one-hit kills. It's also overwhelming having so many spells in your reservoir, and lastly, not all spells work out the way you'd expect. Yes, I'm referring to the Dark Seducer cast. The pros are that it adds a level of intrigue to the game, especially since many of us have played through Oblivion more than once. It's cool to walk into a city with a lightsaber or traverse the countryside on Aladdin's magic carpet, and for that, how can you really dislike a mod like this? It's definitely something you should try if you're wanting Oblivion to have a new breath of life, and it makes sense why it's one of the most highly downloaded mods in Oblivion's lifetime.
We barely scratched the surface, seriously. Hopefully you enjoyed our way of covering these mods. We wanted to keep our opinions genuine, and I'm glad we did. There just seems to be something special about this game, or maybe it's just nostalgia talking. Anyways, these modders have done an amazing job. Make sure you sub so you don't miss out on more of our videos like this. Otherwise, you may never see us again.
We could cover more. Let us know if you like this stuff in the comments, and we will do even more. Maybe we start mixing it up with some of the most ridiculous mods out there. Could be fun. Thank you guys for watching, and remember, enjoyed time is never wasted time, and we'll see you in the next.